Millennials are way more screwed than we thought. For the record, I am a millennial who was born in '94. I graduated college with no debt. My fiancé and I have a house that's totally paid for thanks to his dad. We are a rare, lucky breed. Not many in our generation have it like us, and I recognize that and always try to spread awareness when and where I can. We both grew up in wealthy areas, but we still recognized we are getting screwed as a generation, and we are angry. I took my dog to the vet yesterday to get her rechecked for her bladder infection. There are 2-3 vets in this office. One came in to introduce herself, and I'd never met her before. She was young, maybe early 30s. A millennial too. She came to say my dog cleared the infection. I asked how we can prevent this in the future, since this was her second time getting one. She recommended maybe getting some fake grass for inside, since my high-maintenance Yorkie doesn't like the cold despite having a doggy door with easy access outside. I asked if she'd used fake grass before and what if it was like and if it was stinky. The vet, whom I'd expect to make good money in this affluent area, went on to say she'd never used one before, but she and her husband were meaning to get around to get one since they live in an apartment on the 4th floor with their lab. WTFIDK. I was just amazed that a vet was living in a 4th floor apartment with a roommate. Essentially, surely she makes good money. This is a very well-known vet in a rich area. Okay, that's one encounter I had with a poor millennial this week who I'd imagine should be better off than that. On to the next. I went to the physical therapist on Monday. This is with a major hospital. Again in a very wealthy area. By the way, this is a pelvic floor therapist. So a very specialized therapist, also a millennial. Anyways, I was telling her it was my other dog's birthday. She was like, "Oh, I am getting a dog. Hopefully this summer. I've been budgeting for it for a long time. They can get expensive. Between having an apartment and this and that, dogs are hard to afford." My jaw dropped. Again. I know dogs aren't cheap. I have 2. Mine are super high maintenance with their vet bills lol. There's never been a time where I couldn't afford them. But this poor millennial doctor cannot. She is also living in an apartment. Obviously I don't know their whole situation. I'd imagine they're having to budget due to their massive amounts of student debt. But OMG. If these doctors can't afford dogs and homes, we are so beyond screwed. Wow, screw this system. Screw this world. Screw America. Screw Texas. Let me make a little edit here. I went to school to be a teacher. I was making $3,000 a month after taxes. I paid $12,000 in healthcare costs alone last year. That's almost half my income. When I graduated debt-free, I did it with scholarships and my working full-time. I chose a school that was around $3,000 a semester after my scholarships. I got out as quickly as possible by taking 10 classes at a time. Not even joking. I took 10 classes a semester. I took classes in the summer, too. As a child, my parents were drug addicts. My brother was mentally ill. I moved in with my wealthy grandparents. I met my fiancé on a video game in middle school and he moved here to be with me in college. I'm sorry if my post offended you. I am by no means coming from privilege. I have to work hard to stay out of medical debt. If I didn't have this house, I would be very far in debt. If my fiancé left, I'd have to move back in with my family. Just like many of you. I'm not the bad guy. Edit 2. I recognized in paragraph 1 I have it easier than most and I use that to spread awareness. Y'all are missing my point. Doctors shouldn't have to live in an apartment if they don't want to. These 2 doctors clearly expressed dissatisfaction with that. We shouldn't be living in a society where you have to live in massive amounts of debt to maybe have a decent paying job one day. I make $45,000 a year. I'm not wealthy. My fiancé's dad's money is not my money. He and I are not married. I am advocating for you. I am you. I was a teacher who was getting screwed. I got out. I couldn't afford my medical bills. Even with a house that I'd been given. I chose to take a different job that pays less, but had better medical benefits. That's America. And that's not okay. That's why I advocate. No, I haven't been out on the streets. But I've had my own challenges just like everyone else. I've had opportunities arise. Too. I am not the 1%. Let me advocate. If these doctors can't afford houses, how is a Walmart or McDonald's employee going to afford an apartment in the same area? They can't. That's my point. It's heartbreaking and scary. Our society is collapsing as we speak. Exactly. Then you have Elon Musk saying, if millennials don't have kids then the world is gonna collapse. Then everyone tries to say we're all hippies who don't want kids because of climate change. Which is true to an extent. But they keep refusing to acknowledge that we cannot afford to have kids, and that is the number one reason. I went to see my GP 2 years ago, and had mentioned I had bought my house in the surrounding area just that year. She then proceeded to tell me she was looking but was having trouble with affording the down payment. She's a doctor. I have no college degree. I was floored. She did everything right. I'm a Gen Z. 21. I don't know how anyone is able to move out at all while attending college. It's impossible unless you work full-time, but you can't work full-time with classes to attend, but you can't go if you don't have a job, and you can't get a good job if you don't go. I want to blow my brains out. Younger Gen X apartment dweller here. The majority of people I know with houses were able to afford them because of parental assistance. The minority of homeowners I know are literally just buying for the first time right now because they've been saving for decades, got married, and finally have dual income that can get them a crap shack in the bad part of town. Not being able to afford homeownership has been a problem for a long time. Agree with the whole sentiment. But I gotta say, you're being shocked by apartments is really funny. P Native NYC. Babe, I'm a governor worker with an MA, 92. And I am only now moving out of my childhood home. Tears of joy. It ain't just millennials. I work with millennial MDs that can't yet afford a house in our HCOL SoCal area. Meanwhile, we got boomer lab techs who've been here for 30+ years who live in the affluent neighborhoods and own multiple rental properties. The millennial techs and MDs I work with joke about pooling together to start a commune, so we don't gotta keep transferring our wealth to greedy landlords. Shit's fucked. If you can't afford to own a home, you will likely be poor. Your kids will likely be poor. Real estate is a key way to build generational wealth. Why is everyone beating up on op? Her point is doctors should be able to own a home. Lol, I was born in 94 and I have nothing. You're damn right, it's rare. Edit. Also from Texas. Also, vets don't make shit for money. It sucks. I've seen this so much. People who don't own homes aren't necessarily poor or even looking to own. My best friend lives with his husband in Toronto, renting an apartment, which is a very expensive place to live. They prefer to travel and spend time with their dog. Luckily, they make good money. But I don't think home ownership is a top priority for them. How were you able to take 10 classes per semester and work a full-time job? When did you sleep or study? Most people can't afford a $500 emergency. An op can afford $3,000 per semester from working at a job? How good is this job and what are they paying? Kind of goes against the narrative that students cannot afford secondary education. Both of those careers actually make less than 6 figures on average. Vets are particularly hit hard because they typically have the student loan bills of doctors. Without the wages. The running joke is plants are the new pets. Pets are the new kids. And kids are only for the rich. Both those have large loans. Education is expensive. The interest rate is even more expensive. You are probably going to get a bunch of shit for this post. And it did come off as privilege. I think that was just more of your choice of evidence though. But I'm glad you are aware that our generation is getting screwed. Just know that most people on this sub are not distressed because we can't afford a dog or have to live on the 4th floor apartment, even though, as you pointed out, we are more skilled and educated than the previous generations. It's that we are struggling to afford the necessities like healthcare, food and housing. For instance, in my case, I have an MSc in a STEM field and make just over the maximum monthly pay for SNAP. I went to the doctor 2 weeks ago and he said he was pretty sure I have sleep apnea. Yet even after my good insurance through my employer, I cannot afford to pay for the sleep study, let alone the treatment, to get the diagnosis. After all, the median individual income in the US is around $36K. So I guess for the time being I can plan on having a lower life expectancy in one of the richest countries on the planet. I hope that even though you are not personally struggling, you continue raising awareness about the plight of our generation by relaying our stories. After all, you are probably more connected than the rest of us to the decision makers. They would be more inclined to listen to you than the rest of us. Thanks for the post. Okay, so I do see your point here, but I think a lot of the flack you're getting is because of the way you framed it. Your title says it's worse than we thought. The more accurate title is that it's worse than you thought. I don't know the specifics of Texas, but I know that in the UK, doctors' pay has been headline news for years. And millennials on the whole all struggle hugely across the spectrum of careers. And it isn't news to most people on the sub. I also think you're slipping into some thought patterns that are the antithesis of the antiwork movement, which is very much a left movement. All humans, regardless of their jobs, should have financial security. Not just vets or PTs, but cleaners, people unable to work, everyone. One last note. You've clearly made a lot out of life and that's really good for you. But privilege is complex and multi-layered. You can have privilege in some areas on not others. Privilege can change through your life. So yes, being 27/8 with a fully paid off house is a privilege. It doesn't negate the struggles you've had or other struggles you may come across. But it's a privilege. I'm a similar age to you. I currently live at home still and I won't be able to move out until I can afford to essentially pay rent twice because my mum rents our house and my dad passed. If I move out, she won't be able to afford to live anywhere in London with her salary. Anyway, I hope this realization helps to radicalize you further. We all start somewhere. I asked a physician's assistant one time why he never became a doctor. Because he was better than the MDs. His response boiled down to, if you don't come from an already wealthy family, you pay off the debt for most of your life. Then, there is liability insurance, which isn't cheap and you need to carry. In the end, it's not worth it. You wonder why your doctor can be a complete asshole? It's because it's generational assholiness. Living in an apartment isn't a sign of being poor, FYI. But yes, overall our generation is pretty effed, and it's probably going to be too late for us to benefit from a swing back to better wages, living costs, etc. Because we will all be middle-aged by then. I'm sort of bothered that you act like living in an apartment is so offensive.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.